So a part of why I wanted to sponsor a team is because I want to be like, that's my team. Like I wanted to be able to say, or I wanted to be able to feel how my team felt when they win. I wanted to be able to have the level of jubilation they have when they're successful. And the only way to do that in my position is to sponsor them in a sense. That's like the only way that I can kind of get close to being a part of the team. And is to be honest, is kind of it started really well because Tennessee Elite was the first thing that I sponsored, quote unquote, and it really was just Tennessee Elite showing love. That's really what it is. But now Tennessee Elite is a team that I sponsor. When I'm at their games or I see them play, it's different than just Tennessee Elite playing. Nah, it's Tennessee Elite with Great American Rugby on their arm. They represent me. I represent them. Let's go. Like let's get it going.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Lance Cavanaugh. How are you doing today, man?
I'm truly blessed. How you doing, Jeremy?
Yo, man, I can't complain. It's a great day. We get to talk about rugby, talk little origin stories, man. What could be better, bro?
What can be better, man? For a history buff, for you to be a history buff, I'm a semi-history buff myself. Talking about past events and the origins of how we get to places always been interesting to me. I'm excited.
I love it, man. It's funny because actually, I don't think I told you this, but I wrote my undergrad capstone on early American rugby and how it was the springboard for what became American football in 1905. Rule changes, line of scrimmage. The West Coast goes back and plays a little more rugby. They end up beating a Australian team that they feel pretty proud about. They start playing a little bit more on the West Coast rugby, that is. Of course, they invite New Zealand out to come and play against them, do a tour. I mean, New Zealand wiped the floor with them. I mean, it was like 228 points to like 26, and the 26 points the U.S. scored during the time period was like on a clay field in rain. It was just pure luck more than anything. And so, rugby's always been one of those interest passions of mine, and was able to combine it a few times.
That's beautiful. I mean, isn't that there's a saying of like finding what you enjoy to do, what you're good at, and what people want to see or people or the world needs is kind of the perfect formula. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm pretty sure the people need you, so 3 out of 3 is right on board, man.
I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, man. I always like to kick off the show, talk about the importance of networking. Of course, I think we are part of the great connector, which is rugby, man. So, how do we get connected?
How did me and you get connected?
Yes,
Wow.
sir.
You did an interview with Jen. I don't know how long ago. Jen Solomon and me and Jen go way back. One of those people that you meet in your journey and you just always cool with. Our relationship, the first day I met her, the same as it is now. And when I saw that, I believe it was that, and I seen your post where you had a my green. I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan. Don't tell nobody. But
We'll get
and
into
then
that.
I think it was it was a me sharing that for her, and then looking at your page, and then me and you correspond a few times, and now I believe we'll probably be a little bit more connected, just because of what club rugby does and things you do for club rugby, man. Yeah, that's what I remember. Could I be wrong? Am I?
Man, that sounds pretty accurate. I know, of course, there's Phil Teal out there. Can't forget Phil.
Can't forget Philip.
But
Dang,
no, man,
Phil
I
too.
appreciate it. And I appreciate what you do for the game too. It's great when you can see people actually care about club rugby, or excuse me, when people actually care about rugby in general. It just kind of builds in you. I'm always a wait and see. People talk a big game, but then it's like, are you really about the action you're speaking on?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I put a lot of years into rugby, and a lot of my more formidable years, the years I kind of hold dearest the most, were in club rugby. Now, this before MLR, and it was only professional rugby like 1 year during my actual playing days, what I consider my playing days. And So this to see what it's become and what it has become, I got to show respect to the people that I played with and around because a lot of those guys are playing MLR now. So it's always good to talk club rugby because you never know those guys will be the guys you will see on the weekends playing on TV.
It's amazing, man. It's amazing. So let's jump into your origin story. Think comic book issue number one. Who are you, man?
I am Lance Cavanaugh, born and raised Toledo, Ohio. I am a rugby came later. I started off as an avid football lover. I think like most teenage boys, it's either basketball or football kind of thing. And a lot of things I did as a young person was geared towards football. Most people don't know this, but in Toledo, I am a street ball legend. Okay, we ain't gonna go too much in that, but I didn't really play organized football much until I got to high school, and once I put on the pad, and I think the years of playing football actually geared me more towards what I do in rugby or what I've done in rugby. But just a football lover, um, stumbled across rugby, and I think that's the most interesting part. Is I was watching like football highlights on YouTube, and they snuck a rugby highlight in, and I knew what rugby was because it used to come on like Fox Sports 2. You know those like miscellaneous Fox Sports channels that
Yep.
just be ran. And I think it was like Six Nations or something. And so I watched a rugby game when I was maybe like 11 or 12, and stumbled across some highlights, man. And before I knew it, I was traveling all over the Midwest, and then got on my plane the first time from rugby, and then it actually became what it is now, which is kind of part of my identity, part of who I am, part of my story. You say comic book number one. Number one was football. The very beginning was football, but once I found rugby, like Venom, got a little drop on me, and before I knew it, it was crawling on my arm, and now I'm fully rugby. I am rugby kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Shout to it.
Lance, I love it, man. So, what got you actually to go play rugby? It's one thing watching YouTube highlights or seeing it on TV. It's another thing to actually go and to a practice. How did that happen?
So the highlight was it was all blacks, right? And especially then, I wore a lot of black. I mean, I love the color black for some reason, and I like this crazy. I'm figuring out. Mind you, I knew New Zealand existed, but I didn't know like where it was or anything. So now I'm googling where New Zealand is. Like, oh, this small island, 3 million people or so. Maybe that. I hope that number's right. And they're number one in the world. They're destroying people. And it was a player named Joe Rakafoku. Okay, Joe Rakafoku on these highlights was going absolutely monster. And I couldn't understand how this dude is this good. He hitting spin moves, offloading the ball, and rugby was new to me at the time. So I'm like, man, what a pass. And I was like, you know what, I gotta find it. I gotta figure out. This all happened on the same day. I found the highlights, seen Joe Rakafoku, Google my hometown where I lived, and put rugby. Toledo rugby. And it was a team that played maybe 15 minutes away from my house. Beautiful thing is the first year when I played, they were you know, 15, 20 minutes away from my house, and then they moved right down the street. So it seemed like everything was like perfectly in line. Google, seen who I needed to talk to, called the guy. And it's the funny thing too. I'm being like really like respectful on the phone, like it's like a professional team, and I'm talking like to the owner of the Cowboys, like, yes, yeah, I would love to, just be a part and see. The guy was like, yeah, just come out to practice on Sunday, like, like just show up, I guess. And went to one practice, and I don't know, it was just something about it that was intriguing enough for me to go to practice number two, and practice number three, and then by practice 4 or 5, we was hitting. And that was it. Once we started tackling, once they had to tackle me, once I realized, this is something that I'm kind of used to, street football, it's closely related to rugby. And I don't know, man, I was just hooked. It didn't really take much. It took one practice. It took me getting hit real, like clean one time in practice, not really understanding rugby that much. And once I realized, though, I can take, the guy was bigger than me. Oh, I could take some hits. All right, I'm here. I'm locked in. And that was pretty much the end of it. One phone call, really respectable phone call. And before I knew it, man, I was just locked in. I was all about rugby.
So you jump in, you start playing. Did you start seeing success on the pitch right away, or was it a learning curve?
All right, so this is the funny thing. It's both, right? My first uh actual in-game action was in a tournament about an hour and a half away from my house. So it was like really the first time I left the city for anything that wasn't like a family trip or you know what I mean, something like that. Or so I left the city for a family trip or like some structured like football out of town. It's like this, you know, I don't know most of these people. They taking me out of the way, and I go to some tournament in an hour and a half away from the house, and they sit me on the bench like the first game. I'm on the bench starting off, and they put me in at halftime. Like, yeah, let's go ahead, first game. First time I touch the ball, I go 80 meters and score. Right. First time I touched the ball, the opposite team kicked the ball. They was telling me, you know, as a winger, you got to sweep and go back. It's a tense tournament, so like, there's no real fullback. It's just like, you know,
Yeah.
winger, go back and get it. They kicked it. I hustled back. I picked the ball up, and you know, two juke moves and a sprint later, you know, I'm scoring. I'm like, oh, this is for me. This does work. Now, mind you, I think I maybe scored again that tournament, but it was like tough. Like after that, I'm thinking like every time I touch the ball, it's gonna be work. To actually get into like my skill set and how good I was and the way that I play, you know, there's a giant learning curve. I don't even know the rules at this point, right? I just know if the referee blows whistle, look to see what your teammates are doing, and if they all backing up, I need to back up. You know what I mean? Or if they all going forward, I need to get with them. You know what I mean? I didn't have any real grasp on, you know, the actual coordination of how rugby actually operates the floor of the game. But you know, before long, man, it was one of those things. I was watching it every day, and I actually had to put, you know, you got to put your mental mind into actually learning the game to get better. And I believe, you know, it took a while. It took maybe 3 years for me to really start feeling like I can, you know, I can meet strangers that I've never met before, and I'll be okay to play against them. And but you know, in between there, in the meantime, I was just some fast dude that just ran till I got tackled, and it worked out. You know what I mean?
I love it, man. So, was this like high school time period? When was a time period in your life when you started jumping in on rugby? High school?
This is funny. I didn't start playing till I graduated high school. I graduated high school, did a year of like community college. I was just, you know, figuring things out, and that's when I discovered rugby. So, you know, high school rugby in my hometown didn't really exist when I was in high school. And if it did, it was in a place where it was like I'm not necessarily, you know, quote unquote welcome. Like it's not like a place I would frequent, or I had to drive 30 minutes to a community that it ain't that many people that, you know, look like me in a sense. Like it would have been really difficult. It was after high school, and that's kind of also what made it easy too. It wasn't like I had to, you know, ask permission from my mom or something. At this point, I'm 19, going on 20, trying to figure things out. So, and from then on, it was pretty much, I was pretty much rugby from 20 years old till even today. Like from the very beginning, I was a rugby guy.
I love it, man. So you said you grew up in Toledo. You hadn't left a whole lot. What happened after you started playing after a while?
Well, first, I think the first thing that happened is I started to see more of Ohio, started to see more of Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. I was traveling places, and you know, piece of me actually, that was actually a part of it I loved, especially because I didn't really have a reason to leave my hometown. Right, I might go to the East Coast where my family lives. You know, I might in Chicago. I was in Chicago, Illinois when I found these highlights, and that was like a freak trip. It was just like, hey, let's go out of town. All right, whatever. You know, I got, you know, when you're young, you know, what I mean, I got a place to stay. I got to wait there. All right, I got $30. All right, we good for a weekend. Like, you know what I mean? It was one of those things. Like, I wasn't leaving hometown much. And I think that's also a piece of what made rugby amazing. My first tournament, I'm going, you know, almost 2 hours away from the house. And all these games, I'm going to different places. Um, go to Rochester, New York, randomly. Some guy from Toledo. I never have a reason to go to New York, right? Upstate New York. I never have a reason to go to Flint. I never have a reason to go to Findlay, Cincinnati, and all these places. And you know, even now that piece of me, I love to travel, and that is when I kind of learned, like, oh, I like actually seeing different places, new things, man. Yeah.
Man, so you get you go to Davenport, correct? How did that happen?
So I'm playing for Toledo, and at the time, my uh, I'm trying to figure out what's the next thing in life. I'm trying to really figure out what I'm going to do, the next steps I'm going to take, the moves I'm gonna make. And Davenport is about 2.5 hours. Grand Rapids, Michigan is about 2.5 hours from Toledo. And the Midwest is a pretty small community. Rugby is a very small community. So one of the the leaders of our team was like, there's a team in Grand Rapids that's doing scholarships, and at this point I'm probably like 22, right? So I'm like right at the end of like college eligibility. You know what I mean? And where at the time it's like, look, man, I play club, I just enjoy the rugby, but it's like, man, you really should do this. It's gonna be full time, it's serious rugby. You might have to, you know, play 15 times in a year. You might have to practice every day. I'm like, that's awesome. And me and at this point, me and a friend of mine, his name is Demetrius Beach, we are playing for Toledo, and we like, what we gonna do? We're just gonna stay in Toledo. Let's figure something out. So we end up taking visits and going to see Davenport. Um, and it really just took like one time on campus, like on our way home. It's 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back. We on the drive home. I'm like, what you think? We talking to each other. He like, I don't know, man, maybe. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna do it. I think that this is the lane I'm supposed to take. And eventually, he was just as on board. You know what I mean? The world got to show you the way. The universe got to show you the light. And he like, yeah, let's do it. And me and my best man, my best friend went to Davenport University, and I mean, so much stuff happened there that it really just showed me that rugby can change your life. It can really make a path for you.
How'd you get to Marietta, Georgia?
All right, so I'm glad I brought D'Amica's in. So we at Davenport in the first year we went national. First year at Davenport we went national championship D1 AA, and at that, when the season started at Davenport, we like lose our first league match like by like 30. We get stumped. We lose our conference championship by like 15. We get whooped on. And we our team figured out in the spring because we all came together in late August, had to play a league lineup in the fall. Somehow we survived, get through, make the national tournament, and we end up winning. And at that point, it was like, you only got 1 year left. There was this big kabuppance, kerfuffle about our eligibility. And the eligibility rules that are on the books now were laid not necessarily because of me and Demetrius, but me, Demetrius, maybe some guys at BYU. But it was like this small, like, kind of issue where it's like, it's too many guys that are in their late 20s trying to play college rugby. We weren't in our late 20s, but, haters gonna hate. And so we knew we only had 1 year left. So we lock in another year at Davenport. We end up winning nationals again, back to back, DU. You know what I'm saying? We hold it down. And Demetrius is an All American. He was a All American the first year, and then he was All American the second year. And he goes to a camp, and he ended up getting connected with Life University. I was moved on with rugby. I was like, man, I done did something dope. 2 national championships. Nobody from my hometown did this. If nothing else comes from it, God bless. I did great. He goes to Life University, and the whole time he's there, he's like, Lance, come up. Lance, he will call me randomly. It'd be like 2:45 in the afternoon. He'd be like, "Yeah, man, I'm about to walk to practice. I just want to let you know, man, you need to come up here to Life University, man. Come down here, bro. You will kill it. You will start. You'll be the man, bro. Just come down here." I'm like, all right, all right. Eventually, I end up going down for a visit, meeting the coaches, meeting the directors of rugby and stuff. And because of what I did the 2 years at Davenport, they kind of gave me enough juice where it was like, all right, we'll let you walk on. You get accepted to the school, you can come, be a part of it. And packed all my stuff in my red Ford Taurus. I love Tori. I miss her. Rest in peace, baby. Packed it up in my Ford Taurus, man. Drove to Atlanta, and I don't know, man. From then on, that's when I really got to shaking. That's when I really got to. I was good before. I was good before, but that's when I became like, dangerous in a sense.
I just want to ask, on everyone's journey, you've had a very interesting journey of rugby and life. You make a decision not really knowing the outcome. You can go east, you can go west. Can you give me a time you made a decision and just went for it?
After I was done with life, and I don't know if anybody ever like, life has a lore about it. Life University has a lore about it. And I don't have anything negative to say about Life University, but there are times and moments in the history of it where it wasn't really the best thing for like players. Mentally, it wasn't the best thing for players as far as like what they got to deal with day to day and then go to practice and then da da da. So by the time I was done with Life University, I was pretty much done with rugby. I literally was done with rugby. Right at this point, I'm just living somewhere in the Atlanta suburbs, working right every weekend, hanging out, um, taking classes, really just focusing on trying to figure out my next step. And Demetrius, yet again, goes to Old Blue because at this point, Demetrius had become a Eagle. So he a USA Eagle at this point. He has to keep playing to keep himself in the fold. Can't play for life anymore. We're done there, right? So it's like, what do you do? He goes to New York. The minute he lands in New York, he's talking to everybody like, man, Lance, Cavanaugh, y'all need to bring him here. Y'all need Lance here. I'm unbeknownst to me. I don't know any of this, right? Bring Lance, bring Lance. I played against Old Blue while I was at Life. And I've had like some of the best games I've had are against Old Blue. Sucks to say, but some of the best games I had were against Old Blue. So as soon as they say Lance come play, like want to come play, he was saying it like I want to come play for Old Blue to them. They're like, yeah, he can come. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I randomly get a text message from one of the leadership of Old Blue, and at this point I'm with my then girlfriend. Now she's my wife, and I had to basically get this text message saying you should come play for Old Blue. She happened to be visiting me in Atlanta because she lived here where I live now, which is South Florida. And I went into the house and I was like, "Yeah, I just got a message from da 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 da, and they want me to come play from in New York." I mean, I don't know, like, and me and her had a conversation about it, and she was like, "Whatever decision you make, I support it. Like, I'm with you 100%. If you want to go to New York City and play, you can do that. If not, then the plan continues." And I kind of had to make a decision on how I would progress further. I knew that I didn't really care rugby being in my life at that point. Remember, I'd already kind of washed it off. I got out of it. At this point, I had 3 national championships. I'm not broken up. I'm not beat up. My body's not ripped to shreds. Um, from then, I'm just kind of playing with the house's money at this point. Thought on it a little bit, and I moved from a very well, not very, but a semi cozy existence in the suburbs of Atlanta to living in New York City, which is a place I had only been to twice before in my life. Before that, and that was top 3 decisions I ever made in my life. It was one of the best decisions I ever made.
It's amazing, man. It's one of those things where you're presented the opportunity. As we talked about, you don't know the outcome, but thankfully for you, there was something that pulled you to do it because it. I think it's so much better. Let's say you would have gone to New York, had a terrible time, moved back 2 weeks later, but at least you would know that it didn't work
Yeah.
out instead of
What?
spending your life, your career, your whatever, wondering, oh, what if I would have done that? What if I would have moved up there?
Well, there's another thing about me though, and it's probably a fault of mine. But if I make a decision to do something, especially something like that, like move to a new city, right, or ask a girl to marry me, or those kind of decisions, like I'm willing to stand on them for as long as it takes to prove that it was the right decision. Like it's not that you lose; it's just you walk away from the game too soon, right? Only time you really lose, like on some like casino stuff, is if you run out of money. If you still
Mhm.
got money in your pot, you're still in the game in a sense. I don't know. I just felt that way, and as soon as I moved to New York, I mean, it took me maybe 3 weeks to adjust and really get everything going, find a job, get accustomed to how it was going to be getting around, learning the city and stuff. But by the time I got to the point where I knew New York City enough to where I was comfortable, I had no intention of leaving at that point. I was going to at least bare minimum finish out the season, bare minimum finish out the year. But lo and behold, I love New York City. I love New York City, and that's another part of it why it was like the best decision I made because I had one opinion in New York 6 months before where I was like, I'll never move to New York City, I'll never go, and then I get an opportunity to move there. I got a buck against that and move there, and once I did, it's like some of the nicest, most generous, kindest people, some of the people that I look forward to speaking to, even to this day, were people that I met when I was at New York City, and they're the reason. Old Blue. I say this all the time. New York Old Blue is the reason that Great American Rugby exists. If I didn't go play for Old Blue, I would be worried about something completely different right now that has nothing.
That's a powerful statement. And of course, on the social media grind, I'll make sure to clip that so we can show Old Blue some love.
Yeah, shout out to Old Blue.
That's the title of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on now? What do you got going on?
Well, currently the main thing that I'm focusing on is um, supporting teams, supporting players, and supporting the people in rugby. A lot of that hasn't really manifested into like any like clear cut lane. Most of what I do is like sponsor teams, promote them. Most of what I do is connect people to other people, businesses to the players, players to businesses, businesses to each other. Um, but as far as it's too early for me to be divulging some of the there's no evil plan. There's no evil plan, but it's a little too early for me to jump out and start talking about some of the things I got planned. But the big thing is there are 5 teams that I currently support. There are 5 teams that I actively and currently support on a sponsor level. And right now, the main thing is because 3 of those 4 teams have to worry about club nationals. So, like, one of the main things I'm focused on now is just making sure that those teams get the adequate reach. Make sure they know that they're appreciated, and when the time's right, I'm gonna be right there on the sideline, uh, locking in. Club sevens is probably the biggest thing that's in the future that I'm building to because I've been to Club Sevens the last 2 years and I won't be there this year. And I just want to make sure that the build up, I want to make sure that the teams that are victorious, the teams that don't make it but are this close, are recognized and give us kind of a WWE WrestleMania build up to nationals because this year could be possibly the best year of the 3 that I've been to.
I'm a little, it's a little unfortunate we missed each other. I had traveled with Atlanta Old White for several years when I lived down there for Club Sevens Nationals, and the year I moved back was the first year you went down there. But I'm excited because August we'll both be in the same place, man.
I'll see you. I'll see you the day before it starts too. I see you on the 8th of August, the 9th of August, and we'll
I
definitely
can't
chop
wait.
it up again.
Can't wait, man. But I want to rewind a little bit. What made you decide to start sponsoring teams? How did you get to that?
So I have this weird thing about like the beginning of rugby matches, right? Like right after y'all did all these warm ups, right after you guys kind of get together, y'all do y'all break, and the referee is like waiting. He's checking to see what's up with the captains, and it's like this silence. I've talked about this before, but it's like this calm, this humming. I don't know what it is. It's always something that I look forward to. Like that is to me, not to say that's the climax or the peak of what a game week or a game day is, but it's definitely one of the points I look forward to. And not being able to play, I don't necessarily get that feeling. I don't because I'm not part of a team. I'm not actually with the team. I'm on the sideline. I'm hanging out. And I would feel that even when I was on the bench for games. I would feel that even in games I didn't dress and I'm just supporting on the sideline. You feel it the most when you lined up on them lines ready to go. But it's just something about that feeling, and I just can never get it back. And I'm like, there's no, and I can't figure out why. And it's because I don't have a horse in the race. I have no skin in the game in a sense. So a part of why I wanted to sponsor a team is because I want to be like, that's my team. Like I wanted to be able to say, or I wanted to be able to feel how my team felt when they win. I wanted to be able to have the level of jubilation they have when they're successful. And the only way to do that in my position is to sponsor them in a sense. That's like the only way that I can kind of get close to being a part of the team. And is to be honest, is kind of it started really well because Tennessee Elite was the first thing that I sponsored, quote unquote, and it really was just Tennessee Elite showing love. That's really what it is. But now Tennessee Elite is a team that I sponsor. When I'm at their games or I see them play, it's different than just Tennessee Elite playing. Nah, it's Tennessee Elite with Great American Rugby on their arm. They represent me. I represent them. Let's go. Like let's get it going. Let's go, boys. Right. And the more that I would see that from Tennessee Elite, and then it just morphed. There's more teams that are like when they win, yes, we won. We won. Right. when they lose, we don't get them next time. Even though I'm not out there putting my body on the line, it's that same kind of approach. They're part of me in the sense it allows a team to really, for me to really support a team the way that I would like to, not just as a fan, but as somebody that's a part of the squad.
Lance, I think you articulated that perfectly, man, because that's exactly how I feel. So I'm still playing, thankfully, knock on wood. I got a few years left in the tank, but I found a way to start through my company giving back. It started with Eau Claire Men's, where I went to college, helping them, helping the guys, because of course in college you're broke. You're not getting those guys, especially aren't getting scholarships. They're paying their way to go to and from games, and of course they started becoming really good as well. And so finding ways to just give that little money, give that little back. Of course, building into growing the game, the Eau Claire Orcs up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin started a team. And I was fortunate I was one of the first ones to jump on because a lot of those guys were my teammates in college or they've been my friends. I've been in their weddings. I've been part of their lives. And so it's just one of those things that, of course we got the Eau Claire. Well, then, man, on the back, like it is a
And
cool feeling.
it's a great feeling to see your team with your logo, with your branding, your thing on their jerseys as they're successful. I don't know. Watch it like I was able to see it with Tennessee Elite at Hot Atlanta last year. And I went out to Hot Atlanta just to support. You know what I'm saying? Paid my own ticket, all that, took care of everything myself. But to be able to watch these guys play, enjoy the game, and then every once in a while they'll turn and I just see my logo and be like, yeah, I forgot they're my guys. Yeah, I forgot they rep. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I would like more ways, more. I think a logo on the sleeve is one piece of it, but it's also like kicking money to make sure guys got hotels. Those kind of things are the next step. Um,
Yeah,
the main mission for Great American Rugby was when I first it morphed since, but when I first started it, the thought process was at some point I'm going to have to do what Toledo Celtics did for me, and that was made it extremely cheap for me to play my first 2 years. Right. Eventually, I got to kick in for gas money, and we get hotels. I got to throw bread in. But that first year when I was learning, that second year when I was really starting to turn a corner and really appreciate the game to the way that I do now, they were making sure that I was on trips and I wasn't having to pay crazy money. All these guys were professional, working professionals at the time. I'm just some kid fresh out of high school, and they made it easy for me. And that was part of what I wanted to do as Great American Rugby, and I haven't really forgot about that. It's still in the back of my mind. And part of that is, if I can, hey, here's fit. I gave money back to Toledo recently to some of the Celtics juniors, which was the high school team of my original club. Like whatever I can do to make it easier for these guys, because that little opportunity created everything that I'm kind of doing today. It was all a fork in the road. They showed me love, and now I can, down the line, pass to somebody else, pay it forward in a sense.
Lance, it's one of those things, man. It's like rugby, and I always tell people it changed the entire course and trajectory of my life. Like my life going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, going to the College Football Hall of Fame, traveling all over the country to go to different museums because I love sports and found a way to connect those passions. If I can do the opportunity to give a guy in college like $100 or $50, that means more to me than donating to the university. University's always going to be fine. They're always going to get their money. They got a lot of my money, but to give back to the club, to the guys down there, the guys in Eau Claire, just to help build the community is just such a, I don't know how to describe it, but a good feeling, man.
Your people, it don't even seem like it's giving back. It's like doing your part. Like if you like Dustin Lavender, who's the leader owner of Tennessee Elite, uh, Nigel from Crewman. It's so many people. Michiana is another team that I've sponsored. Finn Rugby, which is here in Florida. Like those four teams. Um, and their leadership have such a vision to help the game where they from locally, to build the game where they from. Like the least I can do if I got it is to kick $50. Like you
Yeah,
guys are doing something that if I lived in Tennessee, I'd be trying to do. know what I'm saying? Now I'm here in Florida. I'm trying to help out with Finn as much as I can. The crewmen are in Ohio, where I'm from. So to me, that is like the best kind of support I can do if I can just give back to these guys. And Michiana was a team I used to play against. Now seeing them take that next step and try to develop and bring guys in to grow the game, to do the thing that I'm trying to do, but where they're from, whatever I can do in a sense to help them out or to get them closer to their goals, I don't know. It gets me closer to mine, and it just seemed like not even giving back. It seemed like helping the process. So that's I shout out to my guys. Shout out to my
I love it, man.
team.
Anyone else you can think of that you just appreciate in your long, expansive rugby journey?
Dude, if it's a great American rugby tradition to give thanks and gratitude to those who helped you on your rugby journey. I do this all the time. I mean, if we talking about Toledo, then it's Manti. It's I don't even know his real name. I think his real name's Ian, but his name was Meat the whole time I knew him, right? So Manti, Boy Ty, Meat, right? David, at Davenport it's Tabu Eloff and uh Dougie and Hugh and all these guys that, obviously D'Amica's with me. If it's Davenport, man, it's so many people, so many of my teammates, what I mean, who saw what was going on with me and how things was going and made sure they checked in on me. Um, Phil Till. Phil Till's one of those guys that, I tell a Phil Till story all the time that, helped me out tremendously. Tremendously. And it's so old blue Steve Lewis, we can say Steve Lewis, right? Then that's like a feature, but it's so many players that were on the old blue side that made it easy for me to welcome me in. You know what I mean? I have no choice but to show love to the entirety of old blue for that. And I mean, I can name specific people being put on the spot like this. This is what I do to people all the time. I do this great American rugby tradition where I tell them to give thanks and gratitude and put them on the spot, and then I show no empathy when they can't think of people. And here I am right now. But obviously, no flop Nick, no flop Nick. SoFlo, Ryan from SoFlo, Kyle and T Granby from Roots, definitely. Everybody from Palm Beach Panthers who welcomed me in and they didn't have to. They had their team set up and ready to go, and they allowed me to jump in, and we rode it all the way to a national title. Um, it's goodness gracious, man. If I get it, my wife definitely like I got to get that out the way, right? Because if she hears this and I don't do that, then there will be no Great American Lance anymore. But yeah, it's come to find out, it'd be the people who do the smallest things, right? I had a teammate at Life when I first moved there, and I didn't have a bed. I had a place to live. I just didn't have a bed to sleep in. This dude found one, bought it, and helped transport it to my house. What, like, fam? Like, what are you? I'm Lance. You home? Yeah. All right. Listen, in an hour, I found you a bed. In an hour is yours. What I need to do? Nothing. Just be here at this time. Like, and these kind of people. This is the beauty of the rugby community. So, it's a bunch of people I could thank. But yeah, shout out to Boy Ty Manti, Tabu. Shout out to Old Blue. Shout out to Palm Beach. Shout out to you. Shout out to you. This is a big part of it too, right? This is a big part of it too. This is how this works, right? You need people that's going to sound the horn and give people opportunity to speak about the game they love or the things they love and voice how they feel. So thanks to you too.
I appreciate you, man. Last question. Talk about living in Ohio, being from Ohio. How do you cheer on the 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers?
How do I? Well, I came across them luckily because at the time I think I played football like in the fifth grade for like a year. I don't even count it. When I think about playing football, I don't even talk about fifth grade year. I played like one season before high school. But they moved to safety, and I'm trying to figure out like how to be a safety, and I'm watching players, and I find this. I didn't really have a team then because the Cleveland Browns end up disbanding and leaving, so I really didn't have a team. And this one player, number 36, Leroy Butler, flying all over the field, and I'm like, all right, if I'm gonna be a safety, I'm gonna be a safety like him. And then I would watch a game and no games would come on, but I would try to find, information. It was like MSN.com was the only way to find stats and scores at the time, right? It wasn't even like crazy. Internet wasn't even prevalent. You got to go to the library kind of thing. But I would try to watch as much Leroy Butler. But come to find out, there's a quarterback, Brett Favre, who's slinging the pill. Everybody loves him. This is my team. This is my team. And from then on, man, and if you live where I live in Ohio, you're literally between Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. And then Wisconsin is somewhere off in the stratosphere. So I had a lot of people that would just hate on me. And me being me, I'm just gonna stand on my two. I just been such a Packers fan. Probably became a Packers fan in like 95, 96. Thanks to Leroy Butler, John Madden, and playing safety in elementary. And I don't know, man. It's tough to be a Packers fan now, though. It's a little tougher to be a Packers fan now because people will meet me and wonder how some guy from Ohio likes some team in Wisconsin. You a bandwagon? Like, oh, don't
You
throw too many
see,
stones. Don't throw stones. But yeah, man, I love watching Green Bay play. And one of my bucket list things to do before God takes me away is to go to a Green Bay Chicago Bears home and away. That's my
they're fun,
goal.
man. I was at the one in January. It's I go a couple times a year, and it's something
I'm
different
trying.
in Green Bay.
I'm trying to do the same season in Chicago, Soldier Field, and Lambeau. Boom, boom, in the same year. But it's gonna happen though, man. I'm gonna put it on my dream board.
I love it,
My
man. I
vision
just
board.
want to show you something. So I'm a collector, a little bit of a collector, I'd say.
Yeah.
Of course, without giving away too much of my info, I have my certificate
You
on
got
being an
stock,
owner.
you mother lover. You
I am
mother
a
lover.
an owner, man. You had to do that. So I collect things, and a fun fact: Vince Young was on the Packers for about 3 weeks,
Yep.
and I have his jersey from that 3 weeks during the preseason. Got a bunch of
I'm
other
about to
jerseys.
start
I won't
doing
show you them all, but you
I
mentioned
want
you're a
stuff.
Favre guy. This is from his 100th game at Lambeau, the game ball he received.
Wow. At least we won. Thank goodness we won. Good job.
Right?
Thank goodness we won. But it is Detroit. They usually sneak. Detroit pesky. They'll sneak a game. Like we don't sweep them on a regular occurrence, and that always upsets me.
Yes.
But then,
It
but
is
anyway,
nice though for me being so I lived in Minnesota for a while. It's nice when the Packers have been taking care of the Vikings for quite a while. I'm okay with
yeah,
it.
yeah. That's always cool too to watch them beat up on Minnesota.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. People want to learn about more about Great American Rugby. Where can they go?
All right, so check me out: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at Great American Rugby. Um, if you want to hear more Atlantis antics, you can find me on TikTok. Give us freelance on TikTok, and my TikTok is a lot of rugby league. So it's not rugby union; it's rugby league. I have a really strong following with a lot of people over in Australia, New Zealand, and the Southern Hemisphere. And I try to talk more rugby league. I'm also a part of the Rugby League in America podcast. You can find us on Instagram at RLNA Rugby League in America podcast. And yeah, man, if you want to find me, listen for the commentary on some big club games. I'll be there. Check me out on Instagram. Let's talk rugby, man. I welcome anybody that want to talk rugby.
Love it, man. We're talking rugby league. Gotta always give a shout out to my guy Sean Hunt. Learned a lot from him. Just learn a little bit more about rugby league because I didn't know a thing, and then watching him play down in Atlanta with the Rhinos, and then of course now coaching, man. So shout out Sean.
Shout out to Sean, man. Shout out to the Rhinos, man. They having a tough start right now, but they day is coming, man. They led the charge for a long time, so I look forward to seeing them find their resurgence.
Thanks again, man. We'll talk soon.
Absolutely, you take care, brother.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.